Another movie I got to see was Alien Outpost, and I didn't think it was that bad. Alien Outpost is set in the future where aliens have invaded Earth and attacked. Now this doesn't happen during the alien invasion. This movie is set up during the aftermath. Earth managed to beat the aliens and send them flying back home. Unfortunately, some aliens still lived on Earth and still were attacking. So then humans set up Alien Outpost in order to search for these aliens and kill them off one by one. So the movie takes place in this one alien outpost that happens to get attacked frequently, and it is filmed in this documentary style because there are two cameramen that go to this alien outpost with these new recruits and film the whole thing, including interviews with all the soldiers at the outpost. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking found footage films and documentary films have been too overused and you're not going to see this movie. Now I totally understand. There are plenty of those types of films out there. There are still some good hidden gems among them, but overall most of them are pretty mediocre and average. Now I'm saying that Alien Outpost is a little above average to most of them, and you might like it, you might not. It depends. Now this sort of documentary style does bring a little bit of fresh air to these types of movies, and there are times when it totally makes sense. Throughout the interviews with each of the soldiers in this film, it helps flesh out the characters and make them more believable and more human. Even gives them backstories to some of the soldiers that you think are sort of supporting roles and more of just extra characters to be killed. Ultimately, it does give them some backstories because every so often they get interviewed and you get their feelings, their thoughts, why they joined the war, some of the things they experienced during the alien war, so on and so forth. And it does create some actual character arcs throughout the film, which is honestly pretty good considering what kind of film this is. I mean, it's a film that was released in theaters, but mostly more people are going to think it's a straight-to-DVD film. So it gives you much more than you would expect from such a film. At the same time, there are moments with the documentary style that doesn't quite make sense, and it feels like they should have gone a different route. Now, it's all shot through these two cameras of these two people that go to the base with the soldiers. And there are times when there are some pretty good action sequences, and it's really odd to see it through the camera because you gotta start thinking about what's going through the heads of these cameramen as they're getting shot at. Most likely they would be undercover, maybe putting their camera above them to shoot everything. But at the same time, there are some points in the film where you look at it and you think about it and you're like, okay, it seems like these cameramen are right out in the open and they could get shot at, and it seems like they don't care at all. And then there are a few times when, like for instance, there's this one point where it shows an alien for the first time and everyone is looking up at it. Yet one of the cameramen decide to film the reaction of one of the soldiers, and it's one of our main soldiers, so it makes sense that we get his reaction, but at the same time it doesn't make sense because if I were one of those cameramen, I would rather be shooting this alien that just suddenly appeared rather than a soldier's reaction. So there's moments where it feels like it's trying to be more of a traditional movie, but at the same time trying to push for the documentary style, so it kind of clashes from time to time. And that's a little bit of nitpicky stuff, but at the same time, for people that dislike these types of movies and feel like there's too much of them out there, they're going to pick up on this kind of stuff and decide, well, it's clearly this documentary stuff is just an excuse to make it a cheaper looking film. The aliens and the special effects are pretty decent. They aren't something you would expect from maybe a straight-to-DVD type film, and they're a little better than that. There are some pretty good graphic stuff as well, like practical effects with the blood spurting out of people as they're getting shot and all that. And there are some interesting ideas throughout the film. Overall, it was pretty enjoyable. It's pretty stereotypical at times, and there's some things that don't quite make sense, but in all honesty, I wasn't bored throughout watching this film. There are some inconsistencies with some of the things that pop up on the screen. There's moments where it tries to explain some of the backstory, so it'll do some white words and explain some things. And there's this one part where a soldier gets killed, and it says, "This was the something soldier that has died, and he will be the last." But then after that, like 4 or 5 soldiers die by the end of the film after that, so it's kind of like, what? But then at the end, by the end of the movie, I kind of see what they might be getting at, and there might be a second war with these aliens, and so the people after that guy dying are considered second war casualties. But at the same time, what makes that person a first war casualty when he died the same night as some of the other people? It doesn't quite make sense to me at all. Overall, it's still a pretty decent and average good movie, so I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. There is things that could be ultimately better, and if it was more of a bigger budget movie, I can see some good things that could have been done with the film itself, but overall it's still an enjoyable movie.